Allah, the most beneficent, the merciful. Dear students, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to our course Phonetics. Our today's topic is Airstream Mechanism in speech production. Today we will discuss about Airstream Mechanism. So, what is Airstream Mechanism in speech production? Speech sounds are mostly produced with air that comes from the lungs and goes ahead through the windpipe, which is called trachea, and leaves through the mouth. In this way, we produce the sound. We produce the speech sounds. So, what is more important in this mechanism, in this process? Airstream process or airstream mechanism. And with the help of this airstream mechanism, human beings are able to produce speech sounds. So it's very important to understand this process while we are dealing with this course of phonetics. When air is coming out from the lungs, it has different shapes or at different places of the vocal tract. In addition, a variety of muscles interact to produce changes in the configuration of vocal tract, which allow parts of speech organs to get into contact or near contact to articulate speech sounds. Let's try to understand this mechanism of airstream. You can do this experiment by yourself. So, what you have to do, first of all, you have to take a lung full of air. Like in this way, you can feel that there is a lot of enough air in your lung. Then try to hum or say ah ah until you have to stop. So you will examine that it will take a longer time when you run out of air. So after that, repeat this experiment, but in a contrary way, vice versa. Now you have to do breathe out first. In this time, you will see that you cannot sustain the same sound for anything like as long. It means you very shortly, after a very short period of time, you will run out of air. There will be no air, and until you have to stop very early or very quickly. So this is enough to show you that a simple sound like ah or requires an out breath with a reasonable amount of air in the lungs. If there will be a reasonable amount of the air in your lungs will be existed, then you will be able to produce some sounds. So now try breathing in while you say ah or So it will be very difficult to say ah or when you are breathing in. So it in this way you can feel that your voice is broken or croaky voice. You will feel in your mouth. So if you try saying your name while breathing in, it will be very difficult and you will feel unpleasant and difficult to pronounce your name, your own name, while you are breathing in. So it doesn't sound very good either. So this is because the vocal tract works best for speech when breathing out. So when we are breathing out, we are pronouncing the sound, we are saying the sounds. It is the best thing. Or if we try to say the things, we try to say some sounds, or we try to utter some sounds while breathing in, it will be very difficult. You can do this experiment by yourself while you are listening to this recording. So mainly there are three types of airstream mechanism. In what way airstream goes upward, in which part of the airstream interact, and in this way from where the sound is producing. So it depends upon the position of the airstreams and the pressure of the airstreams and the place of the airstream. There are three main airstream mechanism. Number one is there pulmonic airstream mechanism. Number two, glottalic airstream mechanism, that's related to glottal sound or glottal airstream mechanism. And number three, the velar sound, Velaric airstream mechanism. Let's try to discuss in. So number one is there pulmonic airstream mechanism. So what is pulmonic airstream mechanism? Speech sounds are made by manipulating, or manipulating means the air is coming out and in. So in what way we are manipulating the air in our mouths, in our vocal tracts, it depends upon the airstream mechanism, and it depends upon the airstream mechanism from where our air is crossing or interacting with speech organs. On that way we are able to produce the sounds. So universally or usually across languages, sounds of speech are produced on an out breath mechanism. When we are taking the breath out and we are producing the sounds, mostly languages are involved in this process rather than taking the breath in. So this kind of airflow is called pulmonic because the movement of air is initiated by the lungs. It means the movement of the air starts with the lungs. Air coming out, and from where it starts with the lungs. It starts with the lungs, and the Latin word for lung is pulmo. So that's why we say this is a pulmonic airstream mechanism. It means we are talking about the lung, and it starts with the lungs airstream mechanism. So in this way, aggressive, because air comes out of the vocal tract, air mean out, and grass mean move. It's not aggressive like people become aggressive when they are annoying and when they are irritated. It's another word. It's aggressive. A mean out and grass mean move out or forwards. So all spoken language have pulmonic aggressive sounds. So it means with whatever language exists in the world, it's related to the pulmonic casting or pulmonic aggressive sounds. So here you can see the description of lungs. What are lungs? The lungs are large spongy organs. What is spongy means? Like sponge. We wash our dishes with sponge. What is the function of the sponge? It's soaked in the water or in the detergent, and then when we try to squeeze it, and it becomes very short, and when we soak into the detergent or into the water, it's fill up. So like sponge that is used for washing the dishes, lungs are large spongy organs in the thoracic cavity. So they are connected to the outside world via the trachea. And what is trachea? It's a pharynx. It's called trachea or windpipe. So lungs are surrounded at the front by ribs. Here you can see ribs, and in the next picture you will see the picture of ribs in a more prominent way. Here you can see in this picture, but you can see here lungs, right lung and left lung, and these are the spongy organs, right? So the lungs are surrounded at the front by ribs and at the bottom by the diaphragm. Here you can see the diaphragm. I think, oh yes, in the last portion, the downward diaphragm. It's from the right side, trachea, left main bronchus, left lung, or alveoli, or next bronchola, or bronchoil, or diaphragm. The last portion, you can see the diaphragm. So these are the last portion of this mechanism, or this process is diaphragm. The ribs are attached to one another by intercostal muscles. There are muscles and they are attached to with each other, with one another. So in this picture you can see the rib cage, and as our lungs are surrounded by rib cage. So in breathing, the diaphragm, here you can see the diaphragm is the last or lower portion of this picture. You can see that in from the left side, it's a diaphragm. And so diaphragm lowers when we breathe in. It lowers, and intercostal muscles make the rib cage move upward. So diaphragm becomes in the lower position, and the muscles of intercostal go upwards and outwards. It means they are filled up with the air. So this increase the size of the thoracic cavity because it's a fill up with the air. So in this way this becomes fat, or it's full of air, and so it lowers the air pressure. So as a result, air flows into the lungs and then expand and fill up with the air, like sponge also works in this way. So our lungs also perform in this way. So once inhalation stops, it means we breathe in, and the diaphragm and the intercostal muscles relax and exert a gentle pressure on the lungs. Air is stopped out of the lungs and generating a pulmonic aggressive airflow. So in this description of most sounds, we take it for granted that the pulmonic airstream mechanism is the source of power. So but we can understand, as we have already discussed, that the pulmonic airstream mechanism is involved almost throughout the world in all languages. So in the case of obstruent consonants, means stop or fricatives, other airstream mechanism may be involved. Maybe in those sounds, obstruent consonants or stops or fricatives, in those sounds maybe pulmonic airstream mechanism. Apart from this pulmonic airstream mechanism, some other airstream mechanism could be involved. So stops that use only an aggressive or outward moving pulmonic airstreams are called plosive. These are called plosives. So air coming out of the lungs forms the basis of the most speech sounds. A downward movement of the rib cage and or an upward movement, as we have discussed in our previous slides, upward movement of the diaphragm forces the air out of the lungs, causing a pulmonic airstream. So in this way, which sounds are created, these sounds are called aggressive sounds, outward moving airstream. Pa, cha, ka, ba, da, ga. Ba, da, ga, these are the stops. And pa, cha, ka, all these sounds are aggressive sounds. And these are the pulmonic aggressive airstream mechanism. Next number is glottalic airstream mechanism. In some languages, speech sounds are produced by moving different bodies of air, and if we make a glottal sound like ka or u, so you can observe that the air in the lungs is contained below the glottis. Say the sounds ka, u. Then the air in the vocal tract itself will form a body of air that can be moved, and this movement of the air could be observed in two ways. Either this movement of the air will go upward, or it will go downward. So upward and downward. Two types of movement could be observed while we pronouncing or saying these glottal sounds. So when either of these actions occur, right, upward movement and inward movement is involved while pronouncing the sound, it could be a glottalic airstream mechanism. So we made sorry stops made with a glottalic aggressive means outward. Airstream mechanism are called ejectives, or stops made with an ingressive, means inward glottalic airstream or downward glottalic airstream mechanism are called implosives. So what sort of process is involved behind this mechanism, glottalic airstream mechanism? When vocal folds are joined together, the larynx is pulled upward about 1 centimeter, and in this way it acts like a piston, compressing the air in the pharynx. The compressed air is released by lowering the back of the tongue, while the glottal stop is maintained, producing a sound with a quality different from that in an English ka. So very shortly after the release of the velar closer ka, the glottal stop is released and the voicing for this sound begins. So stops made with the glottalic aggressive airstream mechanism are called ejectives. Velar adjectives symbolize ka and as in Hausa word for increase, kara. So here you can see the examples. Example of glottalic aggressive airstream mechanism. There are three examples, pa, ta, ka, right? These are the examples of the glottalic aggressive. Word aggressive means outward or upward movements of the air. When it is involved outward movements of the air, pa, cha, ka, the air is outward rather than inward, goes outward. So these are called adjectives. So glottalic aggressive adjectives, you can see the examples. And the next movement of the glottalic airstream mechanism, which is involved going to the downwards or sucked by the mouth, in the sustained in the mouth and sucked in inward or downward, like or oo. These are the examples of the implosives, or what implosive means, the air is going to downwards, the air is sucked inward. Number three is their Velaric airstream mechanism. So what is the meaning of this Velaric airstream mechanism? This is the mechanism that is used to produce clicks such as interjections expressing disapproval that novelists write chat chat or chus chus. It means we can say the clicks are related to the almost, not in all of the cases, but in most of the cases we can see these are related to paralinguistic features, or what we can say the facial expression, body language, and the sounds produce in expressing disapproval, or the sound expressing interjections or sudden expression of the feelings. Like when we want to say a very sad story, or we want to show our sympathy with the, what we can say, with the dejected ones, or the person is very miserable. Mostly women pronounce this on this way. So these are so called clicks. Another click in common use is gentle pursed lips type of kiss that one might drop on one's grandmother's cheek, right? Grandchild kiss the grandmother's cheek, and the sound that is produced at that time while the child is kissing grandmother's cheek, it means it is pronunciation of the clicks. Clicks occur in the words in addition to interjections or non-linguistics or paralinguistic gestures in several African languages, like Zulu, for example, is a number of clicks, including one that is very similar to our expression of disapproval. So these are the clicks, or these are clicks are called Velaric airstream mechanism. So click sounds are produced when the back and center parts of the tongue move downwards and this air stuck over there, and a click is produced when this partial vacuum, a gap, is released by lowering the tip of the tongue. So movement of the body of air in the mouth is called a Velaric airstream mechanism. Clicks are stopped made with an ingressive Velaric airstream mechanism. So remember this term, ingressive, right? So Velaric ingressive airstream mechanism, when air is initiated by a closure at the velum with the dorsum. Dorsum is the back part of the tongue, so oral stream mechanism is involved over there. Clicks. Click consonants or clicks are speech sounds that occur as a consonants in many languages of South Africa and in 3 languages of East Africa. Clicks are found in very few languages. These are not very common. These sounds are used by very few languages. Notably, by cohesion, languages of South Africa and some nearby tongues such as Zulu, they are more often found in extra-linguistic contexts, as we have already discussed. These are the expressions. These are the feeling or expressions of these sudden feelings, feelings of happiness, feelings of sorrow or sadness, or some other similar sounds that we pronounced while we addressing the animals, like a horse rider use the sound. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe you can produce more accurate sounds, so do practice of this clicks. Okay, so this is the conclusion what we have already discussed in our today's lecture, airstream mechanism classification. So mainly we have discussed 3 types of airstream mechanism: pulmonic airstream mechanism, Velaric airstream mechanism, or Glottalic airstream mechanism. So pulmonic have one type, aggressive. Aggressive means the air goes upward and it starts or initiated by lungs, right? And Velaric, Velaric ingressive. This is also one type of Velaric. Pulmonic have one type, aggressive. Velaric have one type, ingressive. Ingressive means the air goes downwards and the air starts with the velum. So what is velum? You must know. See the place of articulation. So you must know all those speech organs so that you can understand what glottal is, what velum is, what uvular is, what sort of these sounds are produced by these speech organs. So Velaric have one type, Velaric is ingressive. Whereas glottalic had 2 types. Glottalic could be aggressive, means the air goes upwards, and glottalic could be ingressive, means the air goes downwards, and this airflow starts with the glottis. Right? This is end of our today's lecture. Okay, goodbye.